Recording in progress.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today here in Stockholm as well as online. My name is Morgan Schneider. I am a Senior Program Officer and the U.S. Technical Water Lead for Textiles at WWF US. Today, you'll hear from speakers from ZDHC, BZU, WWF Pakistan, as well as Artistic Milliners. And just as a short agenda today, we're going to have an introduction followed by speaker presentations, and then we'll go into our panel discussions as well as Q&A. So water quality, as we know, it indicates whether water resources are fit for human use as well as ecosystems. Toxic substances enter the waterways like lakes, rivers, and ponds, and they degrade water quality, which has effects on aquatic species, animals, ecosystems, as well as the humans that depend upon them. Toxic substances can seep into groundwater, causing unsafe water as well long-term as well as for daily activities. And poor water quality can impact businesses indirectly by causing environmental degradation and health problems for communities, as well as directly impact businesses through increased operating costs, decreased production, and loss of workforce. Can also have a greater reputational and regulatory risks as well. Water is critical throughout the textile supply chain, and pollution and wastewater are seen largely as inefficient and ineffective water resource use and production processes. As water availability and quality decreases, the increase of water demand will likely cause competition between textile companies as well as other sectors, communities, and the environment. The effects of wastewater and pollution on water availability and quality have broader connections to climate change, biodiversity loss, and causes and across boundaries and communities. By addressing water pollution and wastewater through sustainable treatment options on site and in the environment, this can lead to cost savings as well as minimizing the toxic substances within the environment. And now I'd like to start with our first speaker. And I'd like to invite Mr. Prasad Pant to come up here from ZDHC, please.
Thank you, Morgan. I am Prasad Pant. I am the Competence Centers Director at the organization. And those of you who don't know what is ZDHC, it is all about zero discharge of hazardous chemicals. So we are the chemical people, and our whole program is focused on the apparel, textile, leather, and footwear industry, where we all know that textile and leather are indeed a huge polluting industry. In fact, the textile industry and the leather industry is the second largest polluter in the world after the paper industry. What I will talk about is this topic of the wastewater and pollution solutions in textile. So the topic was true colors. So really speaking, we all know that the true color of water is blue. But is this really the true color of water? Or is it this, that we today account for because of the pollution from our manufacturing industries? So, really speaking, the true color of water is changing, because we have the discharge of various pollutants from our manufacturing industries into the river bodies all over the world. In fact, this photograph which you see here is a photograph of a Greenpeace volunteer. And if you are aware, Greenpeace undertook a campaign which they called as Detox Now, which was a campaign which they launched in 2012, basically from China, where the Pearl River and the Yangtze River were really polluted because of all the manufacturing industries located around this river. And this Greenpeace detox campaign actually was a campaign or a wake-up call for all the apparel and textile and leather brands to look at how the manufacturing supply chain really impacts the wastewater, the water bodies across the world. One of the things we have to really remember is that when we see colored water, it is visible to us, and we always feel, oh, this is polluted. But a lot of pollutants which go into the water bodies from textile and leather are invisible. These are invisible pollutants, and these pollutants can cause a lot of health effects, like they can cause cancer, they can cause mutagenic effects, they can have reprotoxic effects. They can also have something called as endocrine disruption. Endocrine disruption means that they disrupt the hormonal balance in your body. And the classic example of this is the alkyl phenol ethoxylate, which come from detergents. So a lot of detergents are based on these kinds of chemicals. Now, the ZDHC program, as we call it, is focused at the facility level. So I will be mainly talking about at the facility level, and the next speakers will talk about the impact at the basin level. But really speaking, in a manufacturing, what comes in goes out, and a huge amount of chemicals are used in textile and leather. On an average, about 70 to 80 different kinds of chemicals are used in any kind of dyeing, printing, finishing, coating, or even the tanning process in leather. And these chemicals go out into the environment. They either are on the products, that is the final garment that we have, or they go out in the wastewater or the sludge, which is generated from wastewater treatment, or they go out in air. And hence, it is very, very important that when we talk about pollution, we really start with the chemicals which we are using or which are coming into the manufacturing facility. And almost all the textile and leather facilities need to treat their wastewater, because water is the main medium through which we transfer these chemicals onto the substrate. And all this goes out as wastewater, and it has a huge cocktail of chemicals which go out into the environment. But this end of pipe treatment, as we call it, that is the wastewater treatment, is quite a costly treatment, and it occupies a lot of land or the space within the facility. In fact, almost 1/3 of a manufacturing facility layout will be occupied by an effluent treatment plant. The running maintenance costs are high. We require trained manpower to run these plants. And there is a huge side effect of this wastewater, which is the generation of solid waste, which we call as sludge, which is also hazardous, and we need to dispose this off safely in the environment. So how do we tackle this problem? Of course, everybody is tackling it at end of pipe, but what we at ZDHC have done is to really shift the mindset, really trying to see how we can look at it at the beginning itself. So how can we, focus on clean inputs? Because the philosophy would be that if you have clean inputs, then you will have clean outputs. It's like a security guard at the gate, which filters out any unwanted elements that can come into your factory. And this is what ZDHC is all about. So the zero discharge of hazardous chemicals movement, as I said, started somewhere around 2012, 2013 in response to this Greenpeace Detox Now campaign. And it is a multi-stakeholder collaboration of brands as well as the textile factories as well as chemical companies, primarily driven by the apparel and footwear brands. We have about 42 international global brands which are our signatories. And this is our vision and our mission. The vision is a world where better chemistry leads to the protection of life, land, air and water, because we believe that whenever we talk about clean air, or we talk about clean water, or we talk about clean soil, it all starts with the chemicals or the chemistry that we do. So, to enhance our focus on input management, what we have done is we have come out with a guideline for the industry, which we call as the MRSL, or the Manufacturing Restricted Substances List. So, when we say that we want to eliminate pollutants from the inputs, we need to first document what we want to eliminate. And this is a moving target. It is not a static document. We almost update it every 2 years with new substances which are harmful to human health and the environment. The MRSL today consists more than 500 different kinds of hazardous substances which are used quite commonly in the textile and leather wet processes, as we call it. And what we have done from ZDHC is not just provide a list of the restricted substances that should not be used in textile and leather processing, which is a sort of a negative list, but we have also provide the safer alternatives or the commercial formulations which the textile and leather manufacturers can use through our platform, which we call as the ZDHC Gateway. So the Gateway is a digital platform where suppliers, that is the manufacturers around the world, they register and they get an access to this database of safer chemicals which they can use. This is how it looks like. This is the entry point. Suppliers register and they can search for alternatives. They can even compare their chemical inventory with the ZDHC database. So if I am using some kind of a dye stuff, or I am using some kind of a softener as a commercial name, I can input it and search whether it is listed on the Gateway database or not, so that I can confirm that I am using a safer alternative. Or I can search as a substitute to what I am using from this Gateway. Along with inputs, we also believe that we have to control the processes. We have to ensure that the use of water is also efficient, because on an average, just for people who are not from the textile background, an average kilo of fabric which is produced would use anywhere between 100 to 200 liters of water, just to dye or process 1 kilo of fabric. And hence, we at ZDHC also look at water efficiency. We look at process optimization, because a textile or a leather process is quite a complex process where a number of stages and steps are used, and at every step you have to use and discharge the water from the machines. So how do we optimize the processes is another thing that we look at. And also we look at certain what we call as conventional parameters, like the chemical oxygen demand, the biological oxygen demand, the adsorbable organic halides. These are all parameters which we normally use for the water quality, that we are discharging. So how do we ensure that the chemicals themselves have lesser of these toxic qualities, so that they don't impact the effluent load? And we also insist on our supply chain partners, the partners of our ZDHC brands, to test their wastewater quality, and they have to test this as per our wastewater guidelines. So we have one guideline for the input chemistry. So you check your input chemicals with a database, and then you also check your wastewater. We normally ask the suppliers to test it twice in a year, and they upload this wastewater test report on our gateway, so that the signatory brands of ZDHC can see whether our suppliers are meeting this water quality or not. And the test results are translated into an easy to read report, which we call as clear stream report. So that is how brands can understand what their suppliers are doing, and suppliers can then improve on their wastewater quality every time. The last thing which we would like to communicate is that although we can and should focus on input chemistry, there will be a need to also treat the wastewater to ensure the right quality, whether it is regulatory or whether it is as per our wastewater guidelines. And for that, the supplier or the manufacturer needs to have a very, very efficient effluent treatment plant. And what we are doing from ZDHC is also we have developed an ETP efficiency evaluation protocol. That means an independent third-party auditor goes to these manufacturing facilities and they evaluate whether the ETP is working efficiently or not. And this ETP efficiency is monitored through three performance criteria. One is how it meets the original ETP design requirements. Then how do they have controls on the day-to-day operations, and what is the efficiency and competency of the ETP team which is managing the ETP. So this, in short, was what I wanted to share with you about what ZDHC is doing to provide some solutions on wastewater pollution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prasad. And next, we will hear from Mr. Saqib Sohail from Artistic Milliners. Saqib?
Saqib is not in the meeting.
Sure, no problem. It seems like Saqib had to step away for a moment, so we'll move on to Mr. Sohail Ali Naqvi from WWF Pakistan, please.
It's always pleasure to present in that very learned sessions. So my colleague Prasad presented very well about the wastewater, and now I'll be presenting about how we can treat the wastewater by the nature-based solutions. So I'll request Morgan, if you share the slides, or should I do by myself?
We are in the process of fixing your slides, so please go on with your presentation, and they'll come shortly.
Okay, thank you very much. So WWF, being the largest conservation organization at the global level, as well as in Pakistan, we claim one of the largest conservation organization. We are working in different themes. Like, there are 6 major areas in which we are working. As you know, we have been working in the forest, wildlife, marine, oceans, freshwater, climate and energy. And in the freshwater, it's not only just the water which we are dealing with coming from the rivers or from the rainwater, but the major challenge right now is the wastewater, the gray water or the black water, how to treat that, because it requires a lot of energies, a lot of resources are required. And unfortunately, in the developing countries, still there is no any framework for disposal. Though we do have standards, but now as the developed nations are moving towards the recycling or reuse, but we need to promote those kinds of the practices in the developing countries. So today I'm going to present some of the initiatives on the wastewater treatment system by nature-based solutions. Next slide, please. So in WWF, Pakistan is one of the largest conservation organizations. They started work back in 1970s. We have more than 30 offices who are working in the SAMs in which we are working. Next slide, please. So you can see on the screen, there are 6 areas actually, and 3 cross-cutting. Unfortunately, one of the cross-cutting was mentioned there, but other was not. Those are the market governance and finance. The three cross-cutting, which actually supports or make a linkages with all the programs you see on the screen. Next, please. So, WWF Pakistan's freshwater priorities, you can see uh, Pakistan being one of the most vulnerable countries, we are tackling with the climate crisis, with the weather shifting, climate shifting. So, keeping that in mind, we
Sohan, if you hear me, can you please shut
back
your camera down?
in the past it was 2019 to 2024 and now 2024 to major area is how to promote the IWRM approach. Area is how to promote the nature-based solution in those areas. There is another flagship project named Readaptation Approach and Nature-Based Solutions. This is, yes, this is one of our other initiatives which are on the Indus Delta is one of the good. Next slide, please. So if we talk about the businesses, Pakistan being an agrarian country and textile contributes more than 8.5% of our GDP and 45% of our labor is engaged with this sector, including agri. But there are several challenges in a country like Pakistan about the compliance. Right now, everybody is talking about the German due diligence, EU Green Deal. So the businesses who are operating as as per routine, but now they are struggling to understand these things because they have to compete into international market. And resources utilization is another challenge because there was a super flood in Pakistan in 2022 in which one fourth of our cotton was underwater. So the alternate fibers or resource utilization is a quite important for us. Similarly, we need to promote the recycling approaches. I mentioned earlier about the recycling of the water, but the recycling of the material is also there, and there are different brands demand right now to what extent or to what percentage the recycling or reuse of the material should be incorporated into the final product. Next, please. So water pollution is one of the major challenge. It's not only the developing countries, but for the developed nations as well. And see different colors of the water and the speaker to the diversifying either red, black, charging directly or indirectly all our wastewater into the water bodies, which is carrying all that wastewater and the effluents and affecting our aquatic life as well as coming into our food chain through the irrigation water. That is a major challenge. If we know the root cause, we need to reduce that, at least reduce the or minimize that wastewater at the spot, at the source, and then making it clean for other purposes. Next, please. So, keeping that in mind, we try to promote more the nature-based solutions on the basis of our 5-year strategic plan. The nature-based solution is a very simplified concept. If we just simply say, okay, very close to the nature, those interventions which are feasible, economical, customized, available in a specific territory or a region instead of the alien technologies. So you can see on the screen, we try to promote in our strategy the water replenishment, green infrastructure, climate smart agri practices. So these are part of the our NBS approach in which we are working with different stakeholders on the communities. I will be just quoting example of NBS in my next slides and will be showing how much this is impacting the communities and how much. Next slide, please. Okay, so on the water conservation and replenishment initiatives, WWF Pakistan worked closely with the communities because water is a vital resource for us. Like we try to promote the groundwater aquifer sustainability by introducing the artificial recharge wells. Are the just like the injection wells, but in the injection well ground. But here the rainwater is captured, and that water, after a certain treatment, filtration system is sent back to the aquifer. This is a very important intervention in the urbanized communities because due to exponential increase in the population, the water table is disturbed. So that kinds of interventions are really supporting. Similarly, the floating treatment wetland, this is a technique in which the wastewater is treated by the plants, different plant species which are available and grown at local level, like their roots treat that wastewater, and that water can be used for the agriculture purposes. And we did that experiment even in the industrial zones, like in the leather tanneries wastewater, and we were surprised to know up to 70 to 75% the pollution removal was there, like the removal efficiency was more than 70%. Next, please. So here you can see a small island, very fancy. These are the floating sheets in which the plants are grown. You can see on the screen, this is the common reed on one side, which is quite common in Pakistan, in Punjab area. So these plants' roots actually absorb the pollutants, as well as they were also helpful for the heavy metals, though they do have a capacity, but they were quite kinds of the species. The hydraulic retention time was reduced, the efficiency was increased. So this is an example of one of the project which was funded by the Nike through WWF US, like WWF US and WWF Pakistan worked closely as a partner, and we experimented that in the communities where the wastewater is discharged in the open spaces, and that water creates several. So we did experiment that in collaboration with the federal government research institution, and came up with very fascinating results in terms of the reduction in the BOD and COD. Next slide, please. So similarly, in the nature-based solutions, we also introduced the ablution water reuse system. But in the floating treatment wetland, if you see from in the top line, that wastewater which is treated after testing, that water is used by the communities for the agriculture purposes. So that was a very turning point for us, just to convince the communities, okay, this is something which doesn't require a lot of resources, and due to the the climate crisis in the dry season, if you don't have water, you can treat that water, and that water can be used for agriculture and for other purposes. But provided that we have to take tests timely, and until now the tests which we received, the results are quite promising and helpful to multiply that intervention in other areas. Next slide, please. So there were some community activities in which we also worked under that project with the schools about the solid waste management, awareness raising campaigns, and others. Next, please. We grabbed the impacts of these different interventions and came up with the results, and on the basis of which we developed a small policy brief and trying to promote at different level like how we can conserve that precious resource by adopting these simple technologies, and very much looking forward to multiply that in the other parts of the country as well as in other countries as well. So I'll just stop here. Thank you very much for your time to listening me, and very much looking forward if you have any question later in the session and in the panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sohail. And next, we'll try and go back to Saqib Sohail. Is that possible? From Artistic Milliners, please. Looks like we're still having a little bit of technical difficulties with Saqib, so we'll move on to Dr. Fiaz Ahmed from BZU, please.
Hello, everyone. Can you listen? Hello,
Hello, Saqib, are you there?
Fayaz Ahmed.
Oh, yes.
Can you? Hello, everyone. Can I see my slides?
It sounds like there's some feedback. Do you have headphones on?
Yes, my headphone is on, I think.
Perhaps without them, then, if possible.
Hello.
Hello. That's much better,
Can you
yes.
listen me? It's better.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Please, I want to slides. I am Dr. Fayaz Ahmad, from Associate Professor from the Department of Agriculture Engineering, Bahauddin Zikri University, Multan. We have a good collaboration with the WWF in the water sector and with other projects. As WWF Pakistan is a well-known organization and is working in different aspects of water issues and conservation issues. And as we are in the Multan south part of Punjab, so we are facing the very serious issues of climate change in this region. There is a extreme weather events like the winter events and the hot events in Multan in last few years. So, as a BZU is one of the biggest institute in south part of Punjab, and we have the 33,000 enrolled students, and every day 50,000 people visit this university. So, along with that, we have residential colonies. So, a lot of wastewater generated at the university site, and other things in this university, we have no connection of this sewage water to the main sewage system of the city. So we have to treat this wastewater. We need to develop a wastewater treatment system For that, WWF collaborate with us, and with the collaboration of the WWF, we developed a wetland treatment site, which is based on the natural-based solution of the wastewater. So we have developed that wastewater, and from it's very one of the good program. So we have developed this at the site. About the dimension, we can see that it's about one half acre of land which we developed this for wastewater treatment site. Uh, so we have very good experience with the WWF and from this treatment site. Before that, we are using this wastewater for agriculture purpose, but the wastewater is untreated, and which is creating a problem of salinity in our soils. So by this event, by this program, and we like the treatment of wastewater through natural-based solution. Now the pH has been increased, whereas DO also increased. Dissolved oxygen of the wastewater has been increased. The other indicator also performing well. So I think we have a very good experience with this natural-based solution, and I think we should multiplicate this natural-based solution to the other side, and this wetland side is an opportunity for us to develop further research projects with the collaborating with the other departments related to the agriculture, like entomology, agronomy, and horticulture as well. We are growing the flowers on this wetland treatment site, and however, we have challenges for that, like there may be the sludge accumulation at the bottom of this wastewater treatment site. So we need to further redesign that. It automatically we can develop such a system that sludge can be further treat can be treated, and maybe we can generate the biogas from this, and also we can use the biomass generated from the wetland, and we can develop a biogas plant, and from that biogas plant we can develop biogas, so that can be used at site. So this will be very helpful for us. Further, that there is as the site is developed, so a lot of birds are coming on that site. Some other species are also, we observe that some other species are there. So I think that we can, if WWF will collaborate with us, and I request to WWF that if they have some other opportunities, they can expand our sites here at BCU. Then we will be very thankful to the WWF Pakistan. Further, I am also very thankful to Ms. Morgan. She visited our department and the site. Also, he also observed that it's working very well, and some other delegates from US, WWF US, they also visited our department and the site. I hope they also satisfied from our performance. I think if we can collaborate with more with you, it will be a great opportunity for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fayez. And
Thank you.
perhaps we can try for Saqib one more time. If not, we'll just move into our panel discussion.
Hi, Morgan.
Hello.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Finally.
Can you tilt your phone by chance? So it's horizontal, please.
Is it better?
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, thank you. They're just bringing up your slides and you'll be able to begin.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for giving us the opportunity to talk about the work that we do. All right. Okay. Should I start now, Morgan?
Yes, go ahead and please start.
All right, everyone, for this opportunity. And I'm Sakib Sohail. I represent Artistic Milliners. Artistic Milliners is one of the leading denim organizations in the country. We produce around 10 millimeters of fabric and around 4.5 millimeters of garment every month, which means we are using a lot of water, we are using a lot of resources, we are using a lot of and we also have a lot of responsibility towards our communities and the supply chain. So if we go to our next slide, you'll get an idea of what kind of goals we are setting for ourselves. Sure, that whatever we are doing in our production does not affect the environment negatively. So as per the Paris Agreement and science-based targets, we have set ourselves to reduce our short-term and near-term GHG emissions by 42% by 2030 for Scope 1 and Scope 2, and 50% of our GHG emissions by 2030 as well. And apart from that, what we want to do is we want to reduce fresh water use of for ourselves by 50% by 2035 as well. And in a minute, I'll tell you all about like how we want to do that, what are the projects that we are doing. But to give you a holistic approach of, organizations like us, if we are not exposed to awareness and the experience of how to move forward in the collaborative environment, where we are not working in silos. We are also responsible for the communities, for the supply chain upstream and downstream. And that collaboration alone is going to help us in moving forward toward a nature positive planet. So apart from the GHG emissions, the water targets, we also have targets for responsible production, which is like reducing the use of single-use plastic by 100% by 2030. Also trying to go towards 100% screened chemistry by 2030. We are at the moment at 70%. So working closely with the DHC standards, working closely with them as well to help improve our production facilities, also our chemical management. So if we go towards our next slide, please. So I will tell you a little bit more about what we are doing inside the fence and what we're doing outside the fence. So Artistic Miller recycles 85% of their water, and we are aiming to go towards liquid discharge by 2025. This was our vision a couple of years back, and now we've realized that it will be a lot harder than we thought it would be. So that 2025 date might change. And in that, we will need a lot of support from everyone, all the stakeholders who can help us in this area. So water recycling is very important as a business case. As I saw from the DHC, he was talking about how we need to ensure that textile is not a major pollutant of the waterbed and water levels in the communities. We need to have our own working established ETPs, but that only makes sense if you are also recycling the water output. That makes a good business case for us. So apart from treating the water after it's being used, our focus is also on ensuring that within the process, we are able to introduce new technologies and recipes that will ultimately reduce the impact of our processes and reduce the use of water and chemicals. So we are now putting up intelligent devices, sensors on our machines to get better visibility, as well as ensuring that state-of-the-art new laundry and finishing machines which utilize as less water as possible, using ozone technology, using different technologies like laser, so that we don't have to rely on use of chemical and water. We're targeting to invest approximately $30 million in the next 5 to 6 years towards water stewardship. And if you go to the next slide, you will see that part of that investment is going towards our communities. And we are relying a lot on Alliance Water Stewardship Standard. Can you move to the next slide, please? Yes. So this is a recent launch of a program that we're doing within the Friends of Artistic Milliners, and also upstream in our supply chain in the cotton fields. We also do a lot of work in the cotton field, which I'll explain in a bit. So we have really seen there's a big problem in the agriculture and agriculture sector. And that problem is that most of the farmers have been working on, primitive methodologies of farming, assuming that they need a lot of water for cotton farming. So we wanted to change that. And that one of the ways to do that was to have a holistic program, which we call our Water Stewardship Project, together with WWF Pakistan. And we're aiming for platinum certification for that. The reason for going platinum is that this is our commitment to ensure that what we are doing will be state of the art. The outcomes would be to increase awareness among the communities and the farmers, improve the utilization of water, harvesting of water wherever possible, and ensuring that we provide clean drinking water to the communities. But most importantly, giving them this training and exposure so that they can educate themselves and their families in conservation of water. In the next slide, if we move forward, so I'll talk about the work that we're doing at the farm level. So to cut it short, we have provided smart farming devices at our farm projects. We are working at an area of around 30,000 acres. And if you look at the bottom right, you'll see some numbers on the left and the right as well. The bottom right numbers were really surprising for us. We put up smart farming devices to just start monitoring what is the water usage at the farms. But once we started to get those numbers, the farmers got really aware of the situation, and they started to reduce their usage. So if you look at the bottom number with our program, which is called Millennial Cotton Initiative, MCI, so where we put the smart farming device, the use of water reduced by almost 50%. So previously, 1 kg of cotton lint, which produces around 1.5 jeans, was using 4,000 liters of water. Now it's using 2,000 liters of water and less. So that was one way of ensuring that there is water stewardship in the farm area. And also using preventive methodologies, we try to move away from chemical-based pesticides, chemical-based fertilizers. And the smart farming devices have helped the farmers reduce the usage by more than 45 to 50%. So for us, that was a big win, because agriculture after textiles, or I think even before textile, is one of the biggest industries in Pakistan, which is the most water and chemical intensive use test cases. And if we are able to help reduce the usage of chemicals and waters in that area, that's and for Pakistan. And so this is some of the things that we wanted to tackle. And, we believe that there's so much that needs to be done, but it cannot be done in silos. So we need collaboration from everyone, all the stakeholders in the textile supply chain, be it chemical manufacturers, be it farmers, NGOs, and the industry itself. So we have to take the responsibility of our regions, of our planet. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Apologies for all the technical difficulties, but and now I'd like to move into our panel discussion. Tejas, please. Thank you.
So good morning and good afternoon, everyone, for joining us for the panel discussion, both for in the online mode and in the in-presence mode. We have a very distinguished and experienced panel today, so which is represented by Mr. Prasad Pant, ZDHC, Mr. Sohail from WWF Pakistan, Saqib Sohail from Artistic Millionaires Mills, Pakistan, and Dr. Faiz from the Multan BZU. I will first request Mr. Prasad. Oh, he has already been on the dais. Thanks. Okay. So we have seen that ZDHC works on the facility level projects, right from the input chemical management to the output chemical management. We have seen the WWF works on the basin level aspects, and we have Artistic Millionaire Mills who can give a testimonial for both the programs. And we have Faiz, Dr. Faiz, who represents the academic side, because we should not forget the importance of academics and the role it can play. So I'll first start this this panel discussion with a question to Mr. Prasad, that we speak about the input chemical management, we speak about the process, we speak about the output things which we have to measure at the facility level. Since ZDHC is closely working with the brands, retailers, and its supply chain globally, what is one of the biggest barrier ZDHC face while implementing the projects?
Well, I think, as a multi-stakeholder organization and being driven by the apparel and footwear brands, I think one of the biggest barriers is suppliers or the supply chain partners of the brands not really understanding the urgency of this whole issue. Rather, it is looked upon by the supply chain partners as another demand or another kind of requirement from the buyer. And I think that we will need to overcome that barrier by infusing more of understanding, more of awareness of the real problem, because everything that a brand requests from their supply chain is generally looked upon from the cost point of view, from the suppliers. They will always say, "Oh, what is the cost that I need to incur for this?" And many times when people ask me, "What is the cost of doing ZDHC or what is the cost of doing compliance?" I always counter it that what is the cost of non-compliance? So if you don't comply with all these requirements, we all see what is the impact on the environment in terms of climate change or the water scarcity that you have. And if you don't have water for your operations, you will not be able to do business. So it is important that you conserve water. It's important that you look at your input chemistry to ensure that the water pollution is not there, because ultimately it's all going to come back to us. So this is, I think, one of the major barriers, how we ensure more responsibility from the supply chain, rather than it being just looked upon as some kind of a requirement and a sort of a checkbox or a tick mark in the checkbox that we need to have. I think that is something that we'll have to overcome.
You have rightly touched upon the many aspects, so I will ask certain questions in the upcoming follow-up questions for that. So with this, my next question is to Mr. Sohail from WWF Pakistan. You briefly touched upon the nature-based solutions what WWF Pakistan has implemented. Can you let us know, the audience, how is it connected with the climate resilience and the biodiversity impacts? Mr. Sohail?
Thank you very much, Tejas. This is very interesting or pertinent question, because right now everybody talks about, okay, you are trying to promote the nature-based solution, what benefits are there? So being a conservation organization and an organization which is working on the, I would say, nature rehabilitation, so we always try to promote the solutions which are cost effectively and near to nature. So an example I just showed on the screen. So if we talk about the climate resilience, I believe, the geography of the Pakistan being one of the major, the country which is dependent on the water, and Indus River is having a history. But, unfortunately, due to the flooding, we are facing a lot of the climate hits. Our existing wetlands connectivity is, converted into disconnectivity from the riverine areas due to these climate extremities. In the dry season, in the drought season, our wetlands are shrinking. No water is available. Surface water is not available for the agriculture and other purposes. Similarly, the biodiversity is affected due to the high extreme temperature heat waves. Our the birds, because we do have Asian flyways pathways as well, those are disturbed. And similarly, in the flooding season, a lot of devastation is there. So keeping in mind these different extreme events, we wanted to adapt those practices which are acceptable and doable by communities, because we don't need some rocket science for that. We wanted to install those after a certain trainings to the communities. We want to hand it over to the communities, so communities take care of that. So all the biodiversity, local biodiversity, as well as the connectivity of the wetland is there, which provides the climate resilient practices. For example, if in the dry season you don't have water, you can utilize that treated water for the agriculture purposes. This water is also contributing into the aquifer recharge. It is also connecting with your natural wetlands. Even we have seen some of the birds' nests and hatcheries on these artificial wetlands. So in that way, it provides a pathway to move forward for the climate resilience practices. And similarly, there are many other examples for the other interventions, but today I was just focusing only one intervention which is doable, which is treating that wastewater and promoting the concept of the reuse and economic treatment system.
Thanks, Sohail. That brings me to my next question to Mr. Saqib from Artistic Millionaires, who is representing the manufacturers. So, Saqib, my question to you is that how did you make the decision for improving the wastewater quality treatment at the facility, and how was the decision? Is the decision very well accepted by the top management from the facility? And if not, then how did you convince them to proceed with the improvement plan?
Thanks, Tejas. See, as Mr. Prasad was saying earlier, all this started with a lot of requirements coming in from the brands and standards and everything. And that's like the normal way to go for most of the organizations. The thing is, we have to start thinking beyond that. And I'm very thankful that we have a board which foresees what's going to happen to the environment, to the nature. And as I was saying in my presentation as well, that you can set up an ETB plan. You can work it or not, right? That's up to us, right? But the people who are not really into that, they will just make up an ETB plant and say, okay, we have done our job. But people who are like really visionary, they will say an ETP without recycling is useless for us. So this is the thought process that we have, and it was not a difficult job for us to convince our management for that, because we are fortunately exposed to a lot of climate change at home, and we are affected by that in our raw material supply chain as well. It was an easy decision to invest in that. And I think another thing that Mr. Prasad was talking about, that whenever new stuff comes in for the suppliers to implement, and they always come crying back that there is so much cost involved. Of course, the cost is involved, right? And I agree with him that what's the cost of non-compliance? And you have to think very holistically, and not just being self-centered, that I will only worry about what's happening within my friends. And that's the wrong approach of doing business, doing ethical and responsible business. So as a business venture, we are not only responsible to produce ethical garments, but we are also responsible to dispose of and use responsibly all the material that are coming in and out of our facilities. And we can argue either way that therefore should be more financing coming in from the retail side, from the non-government, non-development sector side as well, to support the suppliers, because there are not many big suppliers in the market. So and these suppliers can support all this intervention financially. But what we talk about is like this SMEs. The small and medium enterprises who do not have the financial muscle or the cash flow, especially in this economy, to set up and run all these programs. So yeah, I totally agree with what Mr. Prasad has said. The cost of non-compliance for nature and for the organization is way higher than the cost of doing this. And you have to be smart about it. You have to think ahead and make a business case out of it. So it's a win-win situation for everyone.
Yes, completely agree with you, Sakib. Yeah. So that directs me to my next question to Dr. Fayaz Ahmed. Uh, Dr. Fayaz, I would like to understand from you what made you to collaborate with WWF Pakistan and what necessitated the need for installing the wetland at your campus.
Yes, thank you very much. As I already told in my previous talk that we have more than 50,000 people every day coming to the campus site. And on other hand, we have a huge amount of wastewater generated every day. On other hand, our sewage system is not connected with the main sewage system, and further that the main sewage system is going toward the river side, River Chenab, maybe partially treated or unpartially treated water. As if we connect this our sewage system to the main sewage system, it will make burden on the main city sewage system, and we observe that it may be choke the all the sewage system of the city, and need also a big investment. So we connected to the WWF, and we are very thankful to the WWF. They initiated this intervention at the BZU site, and we want to reuse this generated wastewater at our campus site for agriculture purpose. Otherwise, because we are using before untreated water, and that untreated water are creating the salinity issue in our agriculture soil. And now we are expecting that with the natural-based solution, the level of salinity will be decreased along with the use of the wastewater generated at the site. Further, it will also will not make the burden on the main sewage system of the city. This will be with this will support the climate resilience agriculture, and to cope the climate issue at the Multan. You know that the Multan is very hot city in south part of the Punjab, and we are facing the climate issue in this region.
Thanks, Dr. Faiz. Mr. Prasad mentioned about the input chemical management and the process part and the output management. So, Mr. Prasad, can you tell audience how does ZDHC guidelines help to improve the quality of the downstream water coming out of the facility?
Yeah, so what ZDHC has done in one of the biggest efforts is to harmonize requirements or to harmonize standards. Because it was not as if the brands, the apparel and footwear brands were not trying to do something, but they were trying to do something in their own way. And this often resulted in confusion in the supply chain because, a brand A would come and demand something, a brand B would ask for something which was a bit different, although everybody was talking of the same thing. That is, how do we reduce water pollution? How do we manage chemicals on site? So I think one of the efforts ZDHC or one of the success stories that ZDHC has done is to try to unify these requirements into guidelines, as we call it. We don't call them as standards because we are not a certifying agency. Another thing that we looked at is that we don't want it to be some kind of a certification program where, you do something and then you have a certificate and you frame it and put it on the wall and say that, oh, we have done everything. So ZDHC is really a continuous improvement program. It is not something that you just sit back and relax. So the idea of having these guidelines was to unify these requirements, ensure that we have a sort of a agreement between the different stakeholders, whether they are brands or whether it is the chemical industry or whether it's the manufacturing industry. And with these set of requirements, with this set of unified requirements, now it becomes easier to implement. Now it becomes easier to monitor, that whether it is being done or not. And hence, the whole program we looked at when we look at a facility level is to look at input, we look at the process, and we look at the output. And in each area, we have these guidelines, whether it is your input management, whether it is your chemical management at the site, and whether it is output management. So I think these guidelines have driven the industry towards more sort of easy to understand conformance to these guidelines, as well as implementation at their facilities.
Thank you. So, Sohail, during your discussion, you mentioned about the local communities and the impact it has created. I would like to understand from you, how have been the local communities receiving your program, and what are the kind of benefits what they undertake, they get when they undertake you undertake these kind of programs at the basin level?
Thank you, Tejas. It's always a challenge to convince the communities, just like a priest is preaching something religious thing among the communities. The same is conservation and the environment, I would say. The same kind of the efforts, the tools. The communities are always, it's a human psyche, reluctant whenever you want to, move into them and want to teach them something new, because they are having the conventional system. They don't want to change. Even in your agri practices, if you say, okay, please conserve that water by these water efficient techniques, they will not be adopting until they get the direct benefit from that. Similarly, our nature-based solutions provide us a space when the communities were hit by the climate change, by the different kind of the crises, heavy rainfall, flooding was there among the communities. Then they realized, oh, there should be something. And I used to say it's not only the government alone mandate to provide these kinds of services to the community. It's a win-to-win situation. Communities, private sector, government should come together, because it's a climate emergency. And when we promote these kinds of the solutions, which is cost effective, it doesn't require a lot of the resources. So we piloted by some grant money and then work with the communities. And then the communities realized, okay, this is something which is giving them direct benefits. For example, the communities were struggling with the clean drinking water, or they were struggling with the water table was going down. They were struggling with the fresh water, and they had to pump very deeply. So they were convinced, okay, these kinds of the interventions, when we piloted, there were some promising results. And then we started awareness campaigns, one-on-one campaigns with their communities. Then they realized, okay, this is something which is for their direct benefits, and they got benefits. On the basis of which we designed some strategy among the communities, how the communities can replicate that, what should be the sustainability plan, which the communities were convinced to follow that, and then we move forward to the other communities with the other interventions as per their requirement. So that's how we started work in different communities. Initially, it was quite challenging, but once one community was there, so that served as a pilot or as a model for us. The other community members used to visit that, and then they realized the real importance of that, and we use that strategy to multiply our intervention in other parts of the country.
Thanks, Sohail. Saqib, during your presentation and discussion, you briefly touched upon the various targets what you have undertaken at the facility level. I would like to understand from you, what is one of the greatest benefit you have got within the facility, or within the local communities, or within the employees after implementing various sustainability initiatives? Saqib, your connection is not good.
Self-responsibility and accountability, right? You want to live in an ethical world, and that back to the community is a big thing. Is it better?
Yeah, it is better now. Yeah.
Tejas, can you hear?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So I'll just repeat some of what I said, and I heard myself as well as feedback. So I think one of the starting point is that the employees and the organization feels the benefit of it in two ways. One is the ethical way, where we have acknowledged the responsibility that we have taken, and the resultant ethical practices. That's like you can say the soft side of the benefit. The hard side of the benefit is direct saving of water, right? If I'm able to recycle 85% of my water, then I don't have to use 85% fresh water in my organization. Can you hear me, Tejas?
Hello? Yes, I can hear you, Sakib. Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Thanks, Sakib. I will connect to you later.
okay.
Thanks. I'll connect to you later, Sakib. Thanks.
The first part is, as I said, the soft side, and the hard side, which is the business number, is
He's muted? Okay, fine. Dr. Faiz, we know about your partnership with WWF Pakistan. So, what are some of the benefits which you didn't anticipate before joining the program, but you are benefiting now? If you can throw some lights on that.
Hello. Yes, after the treatment side, the before that there is a pH level of the untreated wastewater is very low, about the 6.4. But after the treatment, at the outflow side, the pH has been increased, whereas the DO also increased and other parameter also performed well. So from this side, we have observed that site is working well, and so the water is relatively more treated as compared to the untreated, and it is creating less salinity level in the agriculture site where we are reusing it. Further that we are also generating the biomass like flowers, and we hope that we can give a model for the rural area, that the rural people can increase their income level from those floriculture practices, and they can make money from those flowers. So, along with that, the university is treating and reusing its generated wastewater at the agricultural site. And also it is a ponding site, which is can help in the drought season to irrigate our agriculture.
Thanks. So overall, there is a good quality overall of the water which is given to the local communities. So,
Yes.
Mr. Prasad, we understand the power of brands, the power of buying. ZDHC being a multi-stakeholder initiative which is driven by the brands. What can brands really do to drive the ZDHC program or overall improvement in their output of the treated effluent? What can really brands do to the supply chain?
Yeah, brands have a huge responsibility because, as Saqib also said, that it all starts with the brand initiatives, because when the brands start asking and they start going beyond the regulation, which is what many suppliers do meet, that is where they start pushing the industry. So we are even the ZDHC program, we go beyond regulation. We are not just saying that, oh, you are meeting your legal compliance and that's fine. So I think brands have a responsibility in, as I said, first of all, driving the industry towards a positive change. But I think a greater responsibility of the brands is also to support their suppliers in implementation. So there are quite a lot of brands which have partnerships with their suppliers in trying to, or they even invest in certain technologies, joint technologies, to provide these solutions to their to their supply chain, whether it is about wastewater treatment, whether it is about optimization of the processes for water use and water efficiency. We even there are some brands which are working with the chemical industry for sustainable chemistry innovations or alternatives, which we need to have. We know a few brands, ZDHC signatories, who are working with the footwear industry, for example, in trying to eliminate certain hazardous substances and move from solvent-based chemicals to water-based chemicals, so that we have lesser impacts on the worker safety. So I think brands have a huge responsibility, and brands being at the top of the pyramid of the whole supply chain, they can really drive positive change through their policies, through incentivizing the implementation with the supply chain, either in terms of assured business or in terms of collaborations or partnerships with suppliers, so that they not only cover their risks, because the whole idea of the brands is to also cover their risks, but also drive change to have a better planet. I think that's something that brands are doing, and I'm very happy that we have a growing community of brands who are signatories to our program. In 2012, we started with 6 brands, but now we have more than 42 brands which are our signatories. So you can see the kind of responsibility that brands are taking to drive this program.
Thank you. Saqib, we saw that Artistic Millionaires is part of various self-driven sustainability initiatives and brand-driven sustainability initiatives. Would you like to share anything what you are doing it differently, because you mentioned something as out-of-box thinking during your discussion? Would you like to throw some light more on this, and any specific lessons which you would like to share with the audience? Is not there?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, Saqib, please.
Yeah. So some of the both ideas was that we started working at a farm level with the smart farming industry, and that has helped farmers reduce the usage of all the raw materials, including water and chemical-based products. And earlier we were also talking about the benefits that we get. So these benefits are indirectly coming from Artistic Millionaires, because when we get a piece of cotton from an area which has been smart farming, the embedded water, the embedded GHG emissions are very low. So when we do the whole LCA of the supply chain, then our numbers are very low. And that sells very well with the customers as well, because they're not only now worried about what's happening side to side stream. That's one of the biggest benefits that we receive. And initially, the last question that you asked, what is the benefit for the organization? And I would say that if I'm recycling 85% water, then I don't 85% then again. That has been a big cost, as really from the first saying. Water is a scarce commodity, not highly expensive. The more we can save, the more we can recycle, better it becomes for us. At the same time, the chemicals that we use, whatever we can recover and reuse, that is also helping us a lot and making it a business for us. And this is where the ZDHC guidelines will help us. Right? As Prasad was saying initially, that how do we combine everything together and come to terms with the terminology which everyone can understand. So that has helped align the supply chain with the buyer side, and we are able to make better conversations, better business decisions.
Thanks, Saqib. With this, I pass on to Morgan for the final comments and the closing up of these things. Thank you, Sohail. Thank you, Saqib, and Dr. Faiz and Mr. Prasad for joining on to the panel discussion. Thank you. Are there any questions for the panels or any specific questions on the presentations which audience would like to take? Yeah. Please.
Is it on?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Susan Mercer from the WASH R&D Centre at the University of KwaZulu-Natal in Durban, South Africa. So our research group has done quite a bit of work in the textile sector because it's another big problem of polluting the rivers in South Africa. And yeah, we've developed a number of guidelines all around cleaner production, resource recovery. But one of the big things that we did was we had the municipality involved as well to try and encourage industry. So rather than just policing them at the end and making sure that they were meeting the discharge requirements, was to actually encourage them to do resource recovery, cleaner production inside. And it was actually became part of the local bylaws that in order to get your wastewater discharge license, you had to prove that you were taking steps in your factory to reduce waste. And I just wondered if something similar has been happening in your case. Thanks.
Yeah, from ZDHC, we do engage with local regulatory authorities as well. ZDHC is a voluntary initiative. I mean, it's really a brand-driven program, and we do find that there is a large chunk of the domestic market or the domestic producers in the producing countries like India, Bangladesh, or China or Vietnam, where they are still not engaged in our program, and they just think that okay, we are meeting the regulatory limits, that's fine. But having said that, it is also quite a challenge to embed the program in the regulatory framework, because we always find that the decisions are slow. Understanding is also it is a little bit politically driven also, because they don't want to stop the industry or make it such a big challenge that it will affect employment or other political factors. So what we are doing is we are first trying to sensitize the legal regulatory bodies. I have done lots of training at the Department of Environment in Bangladesh, or I've met the ministry in India, or even in Turkey. We have had a lot of discussions with the organizations, of the ministerial organizations there. And we are trying to see how they can, maybe not take the whole program, but try to embed what we emphasize, that is the input chemical management, as you rightly said, that how do they really look at how the factories can also work on input management. We are trying to work on chemical management policy frameworks with the authorities in various countries. And yes, we do engage, but it takes time, definitely. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Isaiah Samuel from Water and Witness International. I just wanted to ask about the sludge issues. I mean, sludge is one of the major challenge in the textile industry almost all over the world. So I was wondering, if companies who apply this DHC, if they are able to reduce amount of sludge they produce, and also if there is any best practice in terms of reusing or safe disposal of sludge, because usually it ends in landfill, which will be at risk to groundwater contamination. Thank you.
So we don't work on the sludge sort of reduction technique, because that is more of the wastewater treatment technologies. But since our program is also on input chemical management, it is possible that you try to remove the hazardous chemicals from the sludge which is generated. And I can cite certain factories in India. I don't know whether Artistic Millionaires also does the same. Maybe we can ask this question to Saqib also. But these companies have actually been able to reduce the hazardous content in their sludge, because sludge is treated as hazardous waste, and then use it as fuel for their boilers, or use it as fuel for cement industry, today, or even mix it with partially with cement to make some bricks for the road construction, etc. There are certain countries like in the US, you are allowed land application for forestry or for some agriculture, provided you meet certain criteria. So you have to ensure that whether it is metals or some other toxic chemicals which are listed, They are not there in your sludge, and then you can use it even for forestry and agricultural land application. So there are various ways, and I mean, that's the whole philosophy of ZDHC, that let's look at how you control all your toxic substances or chemicals in your input chemicals, so that when you finally go to the outputs, you are having clean outputs and you don't have to worry about how you have to dispose those sludge. Maybe Saqib can...
Saqib, there is a question from an audience regarding the sludge reduction. Yeah, please.
So I'll answer that. So, that was like saying that the multiple ways of that, and this is like one of the benefits of DHC guidelines. Once we have the wastewater and sludge, it's not so toxic, and also working with different systems.
It's not clear.
Biomass.
Saqib, you are not.
As well as
the network is not good.
Is it better now?
No.
Still sound like a robot. So I was just saying that it is being used as a biomass and also being converted for SD. We don't have to fresh materials for.
Saqib, the voice is really cracking, so maybe we can take that question offline during the lunch. Not a problem. Now I pass on to Morgan for the final closing remarks. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And if you'll join me in please thanking all of our speakers today. And so just want to close with, as you've heard throughout all these presentations and our panel discussions, the different ways and solutions that are being implemented throughout the textile supply chain, as well as on-site and within the environment. And so again, for me, this discussion just really highlights the points that you can't act alone, and that there's a need to align with others within your supply chain, but then obviously to also collaborate with those outside of the immediate supply chain, such as your academics, your NGOs like ZDHC and WWF, as well as those communities that support your operations. And so again, thank you so much for joining our session today, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.